Welcome back in. It is the Jake Asman Show right here on the Sports Map Radio Network. We are less than 2 weeks away from the NFL draft, and that means Trevor Lawrence goes 1, and all signs point to Zach Wilson being the next player taken by my New York Jets. Now joining us on the progressive guest line to break down the Jets offseason, talk about the draft, and so much more is the new Jets beat writer for the New York Daily News. He is DJ Bien-Aime. DJ, great to have you on the show, and congrats to you on the new opportunity with the Daily News.
Appreciate you. I'm glad that you could have me on. This should be a lot of fun. Let's get into some Jets talk and go from there.
Yeah, man. So you were telling me off air, you grew up in Miami. You grew up a Dolphins fan, so you might have to win some Jet fans over here.
Yeah, I wasn't one of the lame Miami people that jumped on the Patriots bandwagon. So I stayed true to my Dolphins. But my best friend, he might be the best man at my wedding. That's how close we are. He's a Jets fan, so I've always had my eyes on the Jets to a large extent, to be honest. And always having banter with him back and forth. But overall, though, big Dolphins fan. But I had to tell Jet fans from the beginning that's not gonna affect how I do my job. They're just not gonna. The Dolphins don't pay me to be a fan. The What I'm saying, the New York Daily News pays me to cover the Jets, so I can't mess up the bag for a fandom. That's how you end up homeless.
Absolutely. So talk to me about your experience so far being on the Jets beat. Obviously, it's not a traditional offseason with things still being conducted over Zoom and whatnot, but what have been your experiences like getting a chance to cover the team so far?
So far, it's just been a lot more content, but it's been fun, just being able to talk to some NFL players and talk to Joe Douglas a little bit in the press conference and, talking to some NFL scouts and NFL evaluators, because it's something I always dreamed about doing from day one. Since I got into the industry, just covering the NFL. I love the NBA, but my goal is to always cover the NFL. I just like how covering football, there's more context and there's more nuances that go into the game. Not saying that basketball doesn't have a lot of nuance, has plenty, but there's more factors that go into why a team wins or loses. Basketball sometimes is just they just had to, they had LeBron James and the other team didn't. And that's why, the Lakers or the Heat or the Cavs won while he was there. In NFL, yeah, sometimes you can break it down to, Tom Brady. The Bucks or the Patriots had Tom Brady, but there's usually a lot more factors that go into it, just like when the Tampa Bay played Green Bay in the NFC Championship game. Yeah, the Bucks had Brady, but he threw 3 picks, but the defense was able to, hold off the Green Bay Packers. So I enjoy the complexity, how complex football can be, and I love diving into those weeds.
Let's talk about the Jets, of course, the team you now cover up close. So they make the Sam Darnold trade. I don't think anyone was that surprised that they traded Sam, but give me your take on the return they got for Darnold, and now, looking at where things are for the Jets, what you think they're going to do. Zach Wilson with that second.
Yeah, I love the pickup. You got a second round pick for a quarterback that threw 9 touchdowns and threw for under 2,500 yards in 12 games. That is a haul because, again, he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL last year. So the fact that you could get something like a second round, I don't care if it was in 2024, you got a second round pick, So, because hypothetically, let's say, the Panthers, they go into next year with Sam Darnold and Sam Darnold struggles again and the Panthers aren't that good. Now you have a second round pick that's going to be really, really high, and you can end up getting basically like a first round talent in the second round next year. So I really like that pickup. And they got a 4th round pick, So that was some willing and dealing. So I'm just glad that he finally got traded because I kind of got tired of talking about Sam Darnold. Because I was like, all right, we know he's gonna get traded. We know he's gonna get moved. So I'm glad we kind of moved on from that. But now moving on to what they're gonna do. All signs say Zach Wilson. For everything that I've read, it just all seems like it's going to be Zach Wilson. For everything I've covered, everything I've heard, just seems like it's going to be Zach Wilson. It is what it is. Zach Wilson is talented. He's extremely talented. He reminds people of Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. So that play style everybody wants, that off script, off platform type of throws. He has a very live arm. He can flat out wing it. He's a phenomenal talent. So, and he'll be in a much better situation than what Sam Darnold was in. He's going to have a better receiving core. They're going to improve the offensive line. Hopefully they can get him a running game. So he's going to have things that Sam Darnold just never had in his 3 years in New York.
And he doesn't have Adam Gase. So, I mean, that to me is the biggest thing, DJ, as we're talking with the new Jets beat reporter from the New York Daily News, DJ Bien-Aime. And DJ, let me talk to you now, just about Zach Wilson and, what could potentially happen throughout the remainder of this draft. We'll get back to Wilson and dissect his game in a moment, but they do have the 23rd pick in the first round this year. They also have the 34th overall pick early in the second round, and we know Joe Douglas is not afraid to make a trade. What's your best guess on what the approach will be for the Jets with that 23rd pick and with that 34th pick?
Well, just based off of just PFF rankings and just film study, their two weakest spots on the team. Granted, they have a lot, but the two weakest spots is corner and offensive line. I think I just came to the decision that they should go offensive line, possibly get Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State, or possibly the guy out of Virginia Tech. I forgot his name, but I think his last name is Dawkins. But I think they should go offensive line. And then the second round, I would think in corner, Greg Newsom from Northwestern might be there. Caleb Farley might be there from Virginia Tech. Both highly rated. But there's some other cornerbacks you can get later on in the draft, like in the second round, maybe third round, like a Kevin Joseph or Asante Samuel from Florida State, or Tyson Campbell from Georgia, or his teammate Eric Stokes. There are some really, really good options that you can go. But we all know, like offensive line, there isn't that many options. So if you're running out, you might end up in a situation where Zach Wilson may be running for his life, and we don't want that.
You mentioned Zach Wilson. Let's talk more about him. Obviously, people have seen the highlight throws. You mentioned them when you were just talking about it earlier. How do you think his personality will translate to playing in the New York market? I mean, how do you look at it from a media perspective? A guy that grew up out in Utah, and here he is coming to the big city, Wall Street Wilson, whatever Jet fan name you want to come up with. There's obviously going to be an enormous amount of pressure on him to finally be the guy Jets fans have been waiting for.
I think he'll be able to handle it. Just reading some features on him. I mean, last summer he trained out in LA, and he was doing he trained with John Beck a little bit, and then he was doing DoorDash to make some money to be able to provide for himself, and so he can stay out there and continue to train, stuff like that. Because I can relate to that. I used to do DoorDash before I got this gig, so I can relate to that. So that type of mentality to whatever you got to do to make things happen, I feel that that'll be able to translate over, and he'll be able to handle whatever scrutiny, whatever the media firestorm that could be awaiting for him when he does struggle from time to time. But I feel that, he just won a quarterback battle going into the season. Then he had the season that he had. So there was always uncertainty and having to overcome obstacles in that aspect, coming off especially that shoulder injury. So I think personality-wise, he'll be able to handle it, But then again, it is the New York media, so we'll see when it finally comes. So that's still, wait to see. But I would lean towards he can handle that. I mean, he was a D1 quarterback at, he was a D1 quarterback at a pretty good school. So if you can handle that type of pressure, granted, it is the NFL and it is the Jets, but being able to transition into that, he should be able to handle that aspect.
As far as the guy making the picks, Joe Douglas, you've been on a couple of conference calls, of course, with him over Zoom. I don't know if you've even met Joe in person yet, but
not yet.
Yep, at some point, I'm sure you certainly will. When you look at what he's been able to build now, 21 picks over the next two drafts, he's talked about building through the draft. Well, he's been true to his word and accumulating all these assets. Do you have confidence, though, that he's the right guy, that his philosophy will translate to hitting on these picks? Because as a Jet fan, I love the idea of building through the draft and having all these picks,
right.
But I've seen it a lot. If you miss on the quarterback, or you're Mike McCagnon or John Izek missing on all these picks, you're going to be a bad team forever. So he's got to get it right.
Yeah, the confidence is building. I'm still kind of in wait and see mode. I like what he did in free agency, but draft, it's going to come down to what picks you make, as you just alluded to. So confidence is building, but I'm still in wait and see mode just to see exactly who he picks. Obviously he probably picked Zach Wilson with number 2 pick, but what do you do with the 23 pick or the 24 pick or the 3rd round pick or the 4th round pick? Because that's how you really build a team into a contender. So, has he done some good things? Yeah, but we still got to see more, I'm a Dolphins fan. I've seen what Chris Greer has been able to do, but, if Tua doesn't turn into who he thinks he can be, then everything was for nothing, for the most part. So that'll be that. But 2 million draft picks, that's a great step in the right direction, because especially you want to rebuild and infuse the talent with infuse the roster with a lot of talent, you have to get assets, and that's what he's done.
No question about that. So as far as the overall offseason, you mentioned that you have liked some of Douglas's free agent signings. Give us a couple that you think maybe are either flying under the radar or maybe, it's one of those signings that didn't create a ton of waves just yet, but this player is going to be really good with the Jets this year.
So I don't think the Corey Davis signing went under the waves, obviously, but I think people don't realize like how good Corey Davis can be and how much more he has to, that he can show. Because again, last year PFF had him rated at the 10th best receiver, and on top of that, he was in a a run heavy offense. You had Derrick Henry who ran for 2,000 yards. So not going to an offense that won't be as run heavy. And I mean, he would have had 1,000 yards last year had he not caught COVID. And he really does well again in play action. The Niners last year, according to PFF, were ranked 12th in play action passes, and Corey Davis was 4th in the NFL and yards off of play action behind the likes of Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley, Stephon Diggs. So he should be able to take another step. To be honest, he's only 25, I think 25 or 26, so he's still young. So there's still a lot of room for growth. I won't say he has the same trajectory as Davante Adams because they don't really play the same. But if you look at Davante Adams' first few years, like the numbers are similar, and then he finally popped and started becoming what he is now, which is arguably the best receiver in the league. So I really, really like that pickup. The Carl Lawson pickup, I like that pickup too because he really gets after the quarterback. He just has to turn those quarterback hits into sacks because he only had 6 sacks, but he had 32 quarterback hits right behind T.J. Watt. So if you're in that type of company, that's only going to help you out. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, once you can turn it into what what we all need, which is sacks. And he's going to be playing alongside Quinn Williams and Sheldon Rankins. So that is going to the Jets D-line. Woo! They probably have the best D-line in the AFC East, to be honest, if I'm just looking at from the talent perspective, because I know the Patriots don't have a D-line like that. The Bills sort of kind of have a good defensive line, but I think you can argue it. And I know the Dolphins, their D-line is still developing. It's not – they don't have a Quentin Williams. They don't have a Carl Lawson. So their D-line is pretty good in my opinion. And then obviously those are just 2 signings that, Joe Douglas have done. Granted, they're not under the radar, but I think that they can really have an impact on, Corey Davis on offense and Carl Lawson on defense.
Totally agree. And, to your point on the Jets defensive line, honestly, maybe 2 of the more under the radar signings that Douglas did make were on that defensive line with Sheldon Rankins and, of course, bringing in a veteran like Vinny Curry. I know the Jets reporters got a chance to speak to both those guys recently over Zoom. What was that experience like, and how do you think both those guys fit in with this solid defense?
Well, yeah, I mean, that experience was pretty cool. I mean, Sheldon Rank, he saw I had on Louisville shirt, so he said, I love your shirt because we both went to Louisville. I got there the year after he went to enter the draft. I think he went 15. Well, I left after 15. I got there in 16. So our paths never actually crossed. But that experience was pretty cool. I really enjoyed some of the things that they were talking about. Sheldon Rankins, he's really high on the defense. He thinks they're one of the more talented defenses in the league, which if you look at the roster and just look at the overall talent, like Mosley can return to his Baltimore form, and if you can get some cornerback help, and then obviously you still have Mays in the back end. You have Joyner. If Joyner can return to his 2017, 2018 form where he was really, really good, now you have a really, really good defense because you have playmakers at each level. So the talent is there. Now we got to put it all together, but the talent is there. And then, both of them talked about just being able to have a ferocious defensive line, which is only going to make everybody's life easier. So they have the right idea. I see the vision. So I think, the Jets defense was ranked, they gave up 28 points last year, one of the worst defenses in the league last year, but I think they can make a significant jump to possibly being close, going from 28 to probably like around 23, 24, 22. And then we'll see what they can do in the draft, get some cornerback help. But yeah, no, they're trending in the right direction.
DJ Bien-Aime is our guest. He is the new Jets beat writer at the Daily News. And DJ, let's end with this. I mean, who's the guy on the Jets beat that you're coming for? You going after the old vet Rich Cimini. You're coming after Costello at the post, Hughes with the Athletic. I mean, who we coming after now?
Man, I ain't coming after nobody. I'm just, I'm focused on me at the end of the day, I mean, those guys have been doing it for a while, but, I feel like I bring a different quality that most of them, can't bring. Obviously, I'm significantly younger than most of the other guys on the beat, but, Not really coming after nobody. Just gonna come in, put my head down, get to work. Try to build my sources, build my connections, break some stories, things like that. But it should be fun. You know, I've always, when I graduated from Columbia University, my master's in 2020, I always wanted to get back to New York. So this was always. Did I think I would get back to New York covering the Jets? Never thought that for whatever weird reason, but but here I am now.
Congrats to you on all your success. It's been great to catch up with you here. I think Jet fans are going to love your coverage, and we're looking forward to a busy couple of weeks for Joe Douglas and some optimism for the Jet fan base.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching the full YouTube video. If you like what you saw, then please subscribe to my page for more content. Thank you.